you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. Jimmy Murphy and Pierre McGuire. Note to everyone watching, we are pre-recording. That is why our live chat and Q&A session is not available today. We pre-recorded this at 10:30 a.m. on Friday. Pierre, and just as we were coming on the air at about 10:35 a.m., news has broke out of Dallas that the Dallas Stars have fired Pete DeBoer as their head coach. I think a lot of us kind of felt this could be coming, Pierre, but now that it is a reality, what's your initial reaction?
Well, first of all, Jimmy, it's nice to visit with you. I apologize for the background noise. I'm at the CBS Sports Studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've been here since early this morning, breaking down tape and obviously preparing for shows. I've already done one of our shows today live. And I was sitting in here getting ready to come on with you, and one of my producers just came in and said, Pierre, we're going to need you on set in about 40 minutes to go over the Pete DeBoer firing. So I was aware of it. And as I've told you a million times, don't be first, be right. In this case, Jimmy, you're first and you're right. So you get 2 stars today. Outstanding job by you being on it. My reaction initially is I'm not surprised. I think we've talked about this when Pete, I thought, didn't handle the Ottinger thing appropriately. It was not a good sign. It was not a good look. And I didn't agree with it at the time. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback it. I didn't agree with what Pete did at the time. And
Text me right away. Yep.
I sent you a note right away and said, this is a big mistake.
And you're one of his biggest advocates too. So
I am a huge friend. I'm a huge fan. My brothers and sister in the car business. Pete DeBoer used to buy his cars from our family. So I'm just going to tell you, spent a lot of time with Pete in Russia. Spent a lot of time with Pete in Central Canada. Spent a lot of time with Pete at the Grand Forks World Junior in 2005. I've been with Pete a lot. We've talked about different working opportunities over the years. So I'm his biggest fan. I didn't agree with what he did that night. And so I feel terribly. He will only be unemployed for as long as he chooses to be. He goes to the top of the queue right now. And if you're a coach that's borderline in terms of survival, you'll probably be getting replaced by Pete DeBoer if you don't have a good start at the beginning of next year.
Okay, good segue there, because that was going to be my next question. That queue of coaching positions that were open just filled completely. The Boston Bruins were the last one when they hired Marco Sturm yesterday. Is Pete DeBoer right now saying, could you have done this a few days earlier?
No.
Okay. That doesn't even
that's not even in it. If I would ever be,
you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah. If I were ever to be asked for guidance from anybody close to Pete or Pete, I'd say, Pete, take a deep breath, enjoy your family, go for a nice vacation, chill out. You've coached a significant amount of games in a very short period of time of playoff hockey. You've been through the COVID part of it. You were fired in San Jose. You moved right into Vegas. You were fired in Vegas. You moved right into Dallas. You've been on this perpetual roller coaster of emotions. Take a little break. Joel Quenneville took a little break, not self-imposed, by the way, imposed by the league for Quenneville. And I can tell you, I've spoken to Joel a fair number of times. He's energized, he's focused, and he's ready to work. He's going to do a heck of a job at Anaheim. I think Pete needs to do that. So let's just say, so now we're at the beginning of June. He'll have June, July, August, September, October. Usually there are no coaching firings in October. He'll have November. So he'll have almost 7 months to rest, rehabilitate, and study. And so my advice to him, and I did this so I can speak to it from experience, what'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? How are you going to fix what you did wrong? How are you going to continue to build on what you did right? That's the talk. Ken Hitchcock did it when he got fired, and it works. I'm just telling you, Jimmy. So it's really important for him to do that right now.
What, in your opinion, now you just sort of cast the window there, right? And I'm with you. We usually don't see any firings or changes until American Thanksgiving. How far after that, if he's still not employed, does he have to worry then, okay, am I sort of getting too distanced away? What's the cushion there that you have?
You have to keep active all the time. You got to be in rinks. You got to stay current. You got to study tactics and tendencies. You got to study what coaches are doing that might be new, that might be old, that is coming back. You got to study leagues. You got to study matchups. So as you know, because you've been around me, every day starts, like for me, today started at 5. Usually it starts at 5:30, and it usually ends after the last game. Mm-hmm. But in between, you're making calls, you're studying, you're staying involved, you're letting people know that you still want to be involved. So you stay on it all the time. Once you take, Jimmy, I'm going to say if you take 6 months off where you don't pay attention at all, it's already past you.
That's it. Okay.
It's hard to get it back. I'll tell you what, it's hard to get it back. Like I know Joel Quenneville was watching a ton. Joel was on it all the time, and he was hard on it in a good way. And, now obviously it's paid off for him, and he's going to do, as I said, I think he's going to do a magnificent job in Anaheim for Pat Verbeek and the Samueli family.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, our best of luck to Pete DeBoer. And I agree with you. I think a rest and a reset and some time with family is well-deserved and probably the perfect recipe for him right now. But let's get to the Stanley Cup Final, Pierre. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers coming in with a 1-0 lead here in Game 2. Before we got on, Pierre, I was looking at the bottom 6 forward groups for each team. And it wasn't a drastic difference in statistical performance there. But I think more than just, you would agree with me, just watching eye test wise, I think the Oilers bottom 6 slightly outplayed Florida's. And I think that's going to be a huge thing in this series because of the star power on each side, that the bottom 6 could play a bigger role because they're going to need to relieve those guys, give them some breathers, and they're going to have every minute they play is that much more clutch. What was your take on the battle of the bottom 6 forwards in the first game?
Edmonton won the battle of the bottom 6 in Game 1, no question. I was really disappointed in Luostarinen, Lundell, and Marchand. Very disappointed in there. I know Marchand scored a power play goal, but that's not in a bottom 6 situation. That's not a power play situation.
Yeah. So
I'm going to have tape later on today of an unbelievably bad play by Brad. In a key time in the game. That's what I've been doing in the studio here. It's so cool to be able to do this and be in the studio, just like I was in my coaching bunker back in the day, and work with a production assistant, and we're showing graphically why this is a bad play and how it affects the outcome of a game.
Love it.
And I don't think Brad will do that again. I don't think. And then I've got another sequence where you see Evander Kane. He basically runs over Barkov. He runs over Aaron Ekblad. Mm-hmm. There were more icings by Florida in one game than the entire playoff by Florida. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
So, why do you ice the puck? You ice the puck because there's trepidation in your game. You're nervous. You know somebody's coming on you. I told you right away, Jimmy, Evander Kane maybe played one of the best games I've seen a player play where he didn't get a point. He didn't get a point. He was +2 in the game, but he had 9 hits. Those 9 hits were amazingly influential.
Yeah.
You know
what it reminded me of, Pierre? I was thinking about it when I was rewatching the game, and I don't remember. I have to go back and look at the stats if he had a point in it. But do you remember that game Milan Lucic had with the Vancouver Giants when he was just like an absolute
Memorial Cup, and they won. He was the MVP of the Memorial Cup.
Oh wow, he was a wrecking ball out there, and that's what Kane was the other night.
So the biggest thing about Milan was a 50th player picked in his draft year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Edmonton Oilers that traded the pick to Boston in the Sergei Samsonov deal.
That's right. How ironic. Wow.
So you don't think Edmonton could have used a player like that back in the day when they kept missing the playoffs?
Yeah.
And by the way, Sergei Samsonov's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's really smart.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
I love it. I get to spend time with him. He comes around the Hall of Fame a fair bit, so when I'm there for meetings, I love talking to Sergei. I think he's just so smart and so rare. Whenever I see him, it's not so much the time he spent with the Detroit Vipers as a young kid or the time he spent with the Boston Bruins or with Carolina or Edmonton. His game was excellent. What I think about is he was part of the Milan Lucic trade, and he was 50th. Milan was a 50th pick overall in his draft year, and he's the MVP of the Memorial Cup. Think about that for 1 second.
Yeah, that's ironic that I brought that up. Wow. And we don't script this. We don't script it, Pierre.
No, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I know where he is in Rhode Island, and we don't script this. We don't script this.
Not at all. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, I was looking at some of the stats and like, you look, who's a guy that stood out to me the most? Well, you said Lusteranian. That was one of them. Boquist, too, was kind of invisible out there. Nosek was okay. Obviously, he had the bad penalty. We're not going to blame him for that. It is what it is. But just Gadjevich just didn't do anything. He had nothing. He was just, so Florida's going to need those guys to really step up tonight in game 2 if they have a shot at tying this series. I know they've got plenty of star power, but like I said, I just think when you get this deep into the playoffs, those bottom 6 guys, and the same with the third pairings on D, are that much more important. The other thing I'm looking at too, Pierre, we touched on it towards the end of the podcast yesterday, was how Florida counters the speed of Edmonton. And as you rightfully pointed out, and you already referenced Kane there, but it wasn't so much just the speed alone. It was how Edmonton was using that speed in their forecheck and how they were entering the zone. And it was almost like a freight train every time they came down on Florida that Florida just couldn't handle. I haven't seen Florida that frazzled at times throughout this playoff.
It's the most I've seen Florida on their heels all playoff long. Mm-hmm. Tampa usually knows how to play against Florida. They weren't able to this year. Toronto did a good job in the first 2 games of the series. I thought they did a good job in game 3. They didn't get the goaltending, obviously. Remember the injury to Stolars. It's just one of those things. It happens. And so, I didn't like Toronto's game in 5 and 7, and Florida played the way Florida's capable of. Carolina was a no-show. Carolina played terrible. I don't care what anybody in Carolina says. We think the world of your group, but your team didn't play well. Okay, that's just a fact of life. And so Florida really wasn't tested that much. But I would say this, Florida was tested in game 1, and they didn't measure up for good. Even though they had a 3-1 lead, the last 38 minutes of that regulation time and all the overtime, Edmonton dominated. Edmonton dominated that time.
Yeah, as I was watching, it's funny you say that too. Definitely all the overtime. And Pierre, just from all the hockey games you've watched, playoff hockey you've watched, sometimes the team that dominates overtime loses, right? They always back the other way, and it can be mentally devastating going forward in a series because you're like, I just poured it all out there on the line. Like I left it all out there on the ice. How the hell did we lose? And I've seen teams not be able to recover from that. So that's why it was really important that they won that game. And, again, I don't like seeing Nosek be the GOAT there, the wrong type of GOAT on the penalty, but they needed to win that game given how much they did dominate, Pierre.
You're talking about Edmonton. About Edmonton. Yeah. No, Edmonton. Look, I said it to before, and I'm going to say it again. Edmonton had to win game 1, or this would have been a really short series. Mm-hmm. They won game 1. Florida doesn't have to win game 2. They don't have to. It would be beneficial long-term for them, but they don't have to win game 2. But if they don't win game 2, they better not lose game 3. So my point is, this game matters tonight on Friday night. I do think Florida will play better. I think they'll have an answer or try to for Evander Kane. This is going to be a big test for Evander. Now, think about this for a second. Edmonton only took 2 penalties in game 1. Florida took 4. Okay. 1 for 4 for Edmonton, but it was a game-winning goal. 1 for 2 for Florida, but it was a goal that put them ahead, but it didn't help them hold the lead. So if Edmonton can get through game 2 with 3 penalties or less, that helps them win. But I'm not sure they'll be able to do that. Florida has to be 3 or less, and preferably 3. If they go over 3, they're not winning, I don't believe. So that's going to be – I know it's not a stat that people pay attention to, but Florida's penalty killing is elite. But when they tried to go super aggressive in overtime, Corey Perry and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl shredded them. Because that's the talent. The whole game before that, Florida played a passive box and said, go ahead, try to beat us with your skill, because our passive box, we're insulated the front of the net. Our goalie's good enough, nothing's going to happen. But they changed their tactic to start the penalty kill in overtime. And when they went aggressive, they got burned because of the skill and the speed. So I'm just telling you, Florida has to be smart. in terms of how they play the game penalty-wise. And for Edmonton, if they go over 3 penalties, I think they'll be in trouble here in game 2.
It's going to be interesting. Pierre, another thing, because we like to do this sometimes on Friday. I don't know we got to come up with a name for Fridays, Free for All Friday or something like that. We just toss around different topics, and we do this with our viewers in the Q&A section. But I wanted to ask you randomly, and I know there's so many, but what's one of, whether it's as a fan when you were a kid, working in the league, as an analyst, just throughout your course of your life, what is one of the best Stanley Cup Finals you ever saw?
1971 Chicago, Montreal. It was a 7-game series. Montreal won Game 7 on the road in Old Chicago Stadium. Ken Dryden made an unbelievable save on Jimmy Pappen. If he doesn't make that save, Chicago probably wins the Cup for the first time since 1961, but they lose. Montreal wins for Al McNeil, who was just an amazing man who just recently passed away. He was a longtime executive and former coach of the Calgary Flames. Al was just an amazing guy. But Montreal won the Cup in 71. Ken Dryden won the Conn Smythe. It's the last Stanley Cup John Beliveau ever won as a player. So I remember that. And it's a legendary goal from Jacques Lemaire from center ice with the slap shot on Tony Esposito. So that's the best one I ever watched.
Okay.
The best Stanley Cup final game I probably ever helped broadcast was 2009 Pittsburgh-Detroit.
I knew you could say that.
It was everything you would ever want. It's Pittsburgh having a win in Joe Louis Arena after getting bombed in Game 5, like destroyed in Joe Louis. And that's when I walked out of the rink with Mario, and he said, Pierre, we got him right where we want him. We're going to win this series. I'm like, what? I told him, I said, if you were playing, I'd believe you, but you don't play anymore. So he laughed. But he influenced the outcome of that, and you look back at it, Pascal Dupuis was so good in that game.
Yeah.
The big, tall, shutdown defenseman for Pittsburgh were really good in that game. Jordan Stahl was really good in that game. Sidney was good in that game. Max Talbot was unbelievable in that game.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the legendary, iconic save by Marc-Andre Fleury in 2009 with time running out on the clock against Nicky Lidstrom. And the awesome call, the legendary call by Doc Emmerich. Unbelievable. That's the one that I probably remember the most. I remember them all, but that's the one I probably remember the most.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say me as a fan, even though I was a Bruins fan at the time, was just that triple OT game that we mentioned a couple times with Edmonton. It was an amazing game with Peter Klingman. Bill Ranford. Everybody talks about Peter Klingman when he scored the winner, Pierre, but you remember Bill Ranford stood on his head in that game. I think he had almost 60 saves, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it was very big.
To make it worse, he was a former Bruin, Yeah, to make it worse, he had been on the Bruins. But that was probably the one as a fan. And then I'd say it's between, as a reporter, it's between Montreal Bruins Game 7, 2011 or Game 7 Bruins Canucks, the Stanley Cup. But that Montreal game, I just remember that place when Nathan Horton scored. I thought the roof was going to fall off. You did that game.
I did.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game, man. Montreal, people don't realize how close Montreal was in that game to not only winning that game, but potentially changing the course of the Bruins franchise. They win that game, Pierre. I don't think Claude Julien's back as head coach. And there could have been a lot of other changes, and we might have never seen the success that the Bruins had, since that point.
I can guarantee you Claude Julien would not have been back.
Right?
I can guarantee you.
Okay. I know it too. I just don't want to,
Yeah, no, it's okay. But no, first of all, Claude's a tremendous coach. Secondly, he had an awesome staff. His staff was outstanding. Dougie Jarvis was part of it. Doug Kuda was part of it. They had a really, really good staff. A lot of stuff happens over the course of time in the NHL. We all know that, and it happens fast. So if Pete DeBoer was on top of the old mountain, he's never won the cup. And today, early in June, after his team gets eliminated by the Edmonton Oilers, he gets fired.
Yeah.
So stuff happens really quick in this league. Stuff happens really quick.
Yeah, I'd agree. Just going back, when you were coaching, Pierre, and you guys are coming out of the back-to-back, and this is another random question I just wanted to get up. When you're coming out of the second Stanley Cup in 92, like, how do you approach that next season? What's different about that? You've now won 2 straight Stanley Cups. How does a coaching staff approach that following season?
I was there with Scotty for probably about a month and a half, just prior planning everything, training camp, how we're going to set up the lines. It was, and then I got approached by Brian Burke in Hartford probably a month into that planning phase. So I left, I want to say, it might have been the end of July, early August, if I remember correctly. But we had about a month of planning. That 92 team is the first team, along with Chicago, to ever play a playoff game in the month of June 1st.
Oh, that's right.
The Cup was awarded on June 1st in Chicago. The NHL had never played a game in June until that 1992 Stanley Cup Final. And so I was only there for the pre-planning of camp, and then I left to go to Hartford. So what Scotty did the rest of the way, I don't know, but I do know the process I was involved with him was really thorough. It was about lines, about defense, what we were going to do in training camp, how many times we wanted Mario to play exhibition, what we were doing with Yager, what Craig was going to do with contracts, different free agency rules then, no salary cap then. So everything was a lot different. But this was none of my doing. I just worked. Right. Scotty had all the brain power, and you learned, if you paid attention and listened, you learned so much for how to prepare a team.
So tying it in to what we're seeing with, say, Florida and Edmonton, because they're both back in a Stanley Cup Final, back-to-back years, Florida obviously 3 straight. That was a focus all the way back then. It seems that Scotty was looking at saying, how do we overcome playing so much hockey in a short time? How do we keep these guys fresh going forward this season? So that was obviously part of the theme.
I was a big part of it after 91 because of the way we set up training camp. And we worked out of Denver, Colorado, believe it or not. We started camp in Pittsburgh, and then we moved out to Denver, and we trained in Vail at altitude. That was Bob Johnson's idea. And then we would just use that as a satellite. We would bounce into Sacramento, or we'd bounce into Houston, or we'd go into San Diego, or we'd go into Portland, Oregon. Even Salt Lake City, we were paid to go play games there. And we had to have Mario or Paul Coffey back in the day play X number of games. And if we didn't, then we weren't going to get paid the same amount of money. So that's kind of how it worked. It's totally different today, obviously. But the idea of training at altitude was a really smart thing from Bob Johnson. And it gave us probably at the start of every year a 10-day to 2-week advantage before the other teams caught up. I'll give you one example. I'm not going to say where they went. The Dallas Stars tried that not long after. I'm going to say 5 or 6 years after that. They tried to do that. And it was a really smart idea, but they went to a town in Colorado that was too high. And guys started to get nosebleeds from the training.
Wow.
And so they had to leave there. But it shows you, like, Vail was the perfect altitude. Vail's at about 6,200, I think.
I wouldn't even thought of that, like the higher town.
And I wouldn't have thought about it unless I had heard about it. So I know Dallas tried to do it, but they went one step too far. It wasn't their fault. Nobody really thought about it. And but that was Bob's idea. And so it just shows you there are different ways to prepare, but I'll use the old adage I've been saying for a long time: prior preparation prevents potential problems. And that's where Scotty and Craig Patrick and Bob are so good. And you could learn so much from them. So much.
Good stuff. All right. Final random topic I'm going to throw at you here, Pierre. Our friend Jeff O'Neill, who does a great job, O-Dog there in Toronto on radio. He's on the Overdrive show. He made some noise on social yesterday when on the show he thinks that Evan Bouchard is the second best defenseman in the NHL behind Cal McCarr. Is that just a hot take, O-Dog having some fun, or do you see any substance in that?
Oh, there's substance because of the offense, for sure. And I think Mark Stewart and Paul Coffey have done a great job with Evan making him more responsible defensively. He's a much better first pass defenseman than he was a year ago even. So that's, again, recognition and veteran presence and coaching. So I think that's good. But, you look around the league, there are a lot of real good defensemen. Yeah. I mean, Cale McCarr is a tremendous player. I can look around the league, and there are a lot of really good defense. Miro Heiskanen is really a special player.
Quinn Hughes.
Oh, you can go around Roman. Like I guarantee you, those guys would never even bring up Roman Yossi's name.
Yep,
like,
Roman Josi.
Roman Josi is right at the top. Like again, it's not his fault, and this is not a knock on Nashville. He played on a non-playoff team in Nashville.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to talk about that. And I'll look at like Brock Faber. Brock Faber's a really good defenseman. And did we already forget about Jacob Slavin? I mean, I know he had this unbelievable outcome from the Four Nations.
Yeah.
But did people already forget that? Because I think a lot of people are anointing him the best defenseman in the NHL. I'm like, whoa, slow down a little bit. Just slow down. There are a lot of really good defensemen in the league. I would never do that to – like, do I think Evan Bouchard's a top 10 guy? The answer is 100% yes. Do I think he's better than Cale Makar? I do not think he's better than Cale Makar.
Yeah. And I would say if you're going to – I'm with you, and I know I have noticed him improve in terms of being a better defensive defenseman. But, I mean, we saw the cough up the other night. He's still got some work to do in that department. But maybe if we were just talking, let's say, special teams, and you're saying who's the best power play defenseman out there, then I'd have him in my top 3. I would. I'd put him there.
Oh, for sure. Like that.
Overall,
the shot's a weapon.
He cracks my top 5. He doesn't crack my top 5 overall.
No, but the shot's a weapon, Jimmy. I had to draw
like Al McGinnis, right?
And this is no disrespect meant to Jeff. Jeff had a really good career. Jeff O'Neill is a good player.
Oh yeah,
he's become a very good broadcaster. He deserves a lot of merit on that, a lot of credit. But I was drawing up game plans to shut down Al McInnes's shot on the power play. Before Jeff got in the league. Yeah, Al McInnes was an amazing weapon, man. I'm telling you. And I'm not saying Bouchard's better than him because Al's a Hall of Famer and Bouchard's far from the Hall of Fame. But I'll tell you right now. Like, if you could even get close to Al McInnes, if you're Evan Bouchard, you're a hell of a player. And he's not there yet. He's not anywhere near where Al was.
I hear. All right, let's get to our sponsor, Betway, and then I'll give you my picks of the night here. You can go all the way to Betway still, and with your first bet, even if you lose, you get credited up to $200. Only if you're a new member, though. So if you're not a member, go over to right there, the QR code in front of you. Sign up for a membership. Or if you're listening, you can't see that QR code, go to the details section in the website and create your membership there to redeem the welcome offer. This is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply, and you always must bet responsibly. Let's go to the picks of the night. What do we got?
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, I'm going to start off with some props here, and I'll warn that I'm a little torn as to who might win this game. So I might let you all decide that on your own, but I'm just looking at some props here in terms of goal scorers, in points. I like Corey Perry to light the lamp tonight for the Edmonton Oilers at plus 280. And I also like Carter Verhaeghe to find the back of the net at plus 245. And then when you're looking at points, well, I'm going to go with the aforementioned Evan Bouchard there. Give me Evan Bouchard at 2+ points at plus 300. Again, I'm leaning Edmonton to take a 2-0 lead in this series, but I don't feel strong enough to urge you to bet them. I will leave that up to you, but that's what I'm looking at right now for this game. Pierre, you already broke it down there. If you were looking at one other key for the Florida Panthers to come in here, what's the biggest thing they have to do?
They dominated faceoffs in game 1, and they didn't get any offense out of the faceoffs. You have to dominate faceoffs again. I believe they will. But when you do, you need to dominate the puck. You can't make bad decisions with the puck. You can't just be flipping it out in the neutral zone out of your own zone. And you can't be not getting shots on goal when you're in the offensive zone. And I give Edmonton a lot of credit for this. They took away the shooting lanes extremely well, whether it was with body position or stick position. A lot of those pucks didn't get to the net. You talked about Carter Verhaeghe scoring tonight. Carter had some really good looks off of face-off situations. He missed the net. And I think part of why he missed the net, he was influenced by people in the lane. He's trying to be too fine. So I totally understand. I give Edmonton a lot of credit. But taking advantage of one face-off for Florida will matter a lot in game 2.
And you just going back to Evander Kane, Pierre, we said what a great game he played there and how he channeled his aggressive style in the correct way. Is there any worry that he goes over the line a bit and gets too excited after the game he had in game 1?
I don't worry about that with him because I know him pretty well, and he gets the moment. He tasted the disappointment last year losing. But here's what I do think. we know Florida really well, all of us, whether it's you and I, Jimmy, or all the great fans we have that watch this show. They're not going away quietly.
No.
And they know what we know. And I know what coaches do when they have the day off. They break down tape and they look for ways to influence the next game. Yep. Evander Kane's going to have a target on his back tonight.
I know, and that's why I was going there, Pierre, because they are, as we've said, and Ed Jovanowski agreed with us as well 2 days ago, they are the best in the NHL at getting under your skin and making you do something stupid. And that's why if I'm Edmonton right now, I'm like, Evander, I don't want you to change anything. But if they're, as expected, and as you just predicted, Pierre, targeting you, and they're trying to do that, let somebody else. We'll get other guys to take care of that. We'll take care of it. You worry about you. You keep doing what you're doing. I think it's going to be like just, and I don't know, Pierre, but if coaches do this, when you have a player in that situation where he knows there's going to be a target on his back, he knows that they're going to try and get under his skin. Do teams say, hey, we'll have teammates watching out for that stuff and we'll do our best to kind of prevent you from is there a way to do that? You know what I mean? Like to sort of have a support system, so to speak.
Yeah. All you tell the players, you play whistle to whistle. Don't worry about anything else. Once the whistle blows, you stop. Right. You get out. Don't stay in the scrum. Just get out.
Okay.
And force them to take penalties on you. Don't take any on them. So the players know. His teammates will know. I guarantee you his teammates appreciate what he did in game one.
Oh, yeah.
You really do a tape breakdown of the game. You see how much – and I'm shocked that all the great hockey writers that were at that haven't talked about it.
Yeah. He was
so important in that game. Just watch the game and watch the big plays and watch how he influenced the amount that Florida was icing the puck, the amount of turnovers. Watch how much he influenced post-whistle scrums. Watch what he does on the Matthias Ekholm goal when he's driving to the net and he opens up a huge seam. There's so much that was never brought up. It's painful, but I'm telling you, it really matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. A lot of people miss the boat on that. And I'm glad you're giving them credit for that, Pierre, because there are things sometimes where I think a player can really shift momentum or shift the tempo of a game. And he did that. And who cares if he doesn't show up in the score sheet? He still deserves the credit he's getting. So good on you for giving it to him.
+2, 9 hits, and he played on the fourth line, the third line, and the first line.
Yep.
He did. He played with Draisaitl and McDavid. They were messing the lines up a lot because they were trying to break down some of the matchups, and that's their credit on home ice. They give Knobloch a lot of credit for doing it. But, hey, Evander Kane was really useful in game one, very useful.
As we're saying this, I'm thinking of a moment, too, that I caught, Pierre, the other day, and I forgot to bring up to you, too. Did you see, too, when I think it was in the second period, he was kind of going at it with Tkachuk a few times, and then as they were both skating off the line change, he gave Tkachuk just a little nudge, and he's laughing as he's doing. He's laughing, looking at him, laughing. Wow. That's what I'd say to him. Hey, listen, they're going to come and get at you and go after you. Just laugh. That's all, and that will drive them nuts because they're trying to get you to do the opposite thing. Just laugh. That's it. Skate away.
That's true. That's true. I like what you're saying, but I can also tell you this. I'm not sure Matthew wants a piece of that.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't either. I don't think anyone.
Evander knows what he's doing with his hands.
Yeah, that's not David Pastrnak. No offense to Pasta, but
no. Pasta's hands are good for a lot of things. Getting points, one of them. Making plays is another. Evander knows how to do his chores. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I hear you. Well, listen, I know you got to get to another CBS hit, Pierre. We're going to let you go here. I look forward to another great week on the eye test. And again, for those that don't know, we are going to be over in Los Angeles for the NHL draft at the end of the month. We're in planning stages of that. And as we get closer, I'm going to be trying to line up some guests as well in person. I'm working on maybe a location for us. So we will keep the details flowing as we get them, but enjoy the hockey tonight. And we will talk to you again here Monday on the eye test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the eye test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.